Hola Madridistas, welcome back to another episode of Let's Be Real podcast. If you guys are new here, don't forget to smash the likes and subscribe to the channel. We are on the road to 4K. Big up our sponsors as always. Talksport Fan Network. Talksport, as you all know, is the biggest sports radio station in the world. Everything on LBI is officially powered by the Talksport Fan Network. Also, go show some love to Fanatics as well. Official partners of La Liga and Real Madrid. Make sure you use the affiliated link in the description below so that they know you guys came through us. But yeah, City had lost 6 of the last 12 games in the Champions League prior to this. This isn't quite the City of last year, but City are a side that is in their prime settings. Let's put it that way. They are not the side that thrashed us 4-0 on on road to a historic travel for them. This City side has a lot of weaknesses. So many top sides have consistently exposed them. But yeah, we are in a bad moment ourselves. But this is the thing, yeah. We can. This performance was good enough for me if the noise surrounding what has happening or what preceded this was satisfactory and understandable. For me, what baffling is the body language of so many players who um, has this face where they kind of know what's coming, and they know that whatever they do, it's not going to go their way. Um, and 2 wins in 8 games doesn't tell you half the story. If you were in a coma and you just woke up and you read your beloved Madrid, only won 2 of the last 8 games, shit has hit the fan. And unfortunately for me, Chabi has to go. Um, I know Chabi isn't the the focal point behind what has unfolded over the last 3-4 months. The board has a lot to do with it. Transfer policy has a lot to do with it. Xabi Alonso, yeah, his in-game management poor. His constant back and forth between what he believes in and what he doesn't believe in is driving me nuts every time I give him a chance, in my mind. But this result should be it, man. The performance, like I said, wasn't that bad, but 2 wins in 8 games for Madrid, for Real Madrid is beyond unacceptable. And unfortunately, this is headed towards a point of no return. I've been reading stuff from Madrid Extra. Someone said he'll be given the game against Alaves. Let's say we win away against Alaves. What changes? I don't think much changes, to be honest, unless we wait it out till March or something, and wait for a big game to actually come by and we do the deed. Um, this is way beyond recoverable in my opinion. But Sahil, I think you're temporarily unavailable. But the main issue for me has been the constant chopping and changes of the lineups. The injuries hasn't really helped. Neither has the overall look of so many top professionals who just looks like they can't handle this kind of pressure, and this is something that is um, yeah uh, too big of an ask, even for the likes of the people who actually won us a couple of Champions Leagues. But over to you, Sahil, man. I'm beyond done with this season. If I had a choice to actually quit right now and forfeit the season like we do in FIFA Manager, I would just take that and go to sleep. But unfortunately, we can't. We have to sit through this. But over to you, man. What's your impressions?
They're not good, man. I mean,
Mm.
firstly, just a huge thank you to everyone who's turned out in the chat and everyone who's also, listening from um, various audio streaming platforms. And to everyone who's, kept supporting us through this difficult period for the team, as for us. Huge shout out to some of our more loyal, subscribers. Um, but yeah, this Man City is not a side that should have come to the Bernabeu and stolen a victory um, from the jaws of us actually putting on a decent first half performance where we saw what we expected, and in a sense that we were never going to over analyze this game. We were expecting good intensity in the first half, which we got, and we were also expecting City to roll back, which they did. But what hurts, Suned, is the fact that we conceded on the back of very, very silly mistakes. Like, those are not errors you should be making against Man City. Like, if they scored like they did a couple seasons back, right, or even a couple seasons back, where uh if someone like Ryan Cherky, or someone like Doku completely bamboozles you, which happened multiple times in the game, but they didn't score like that, right? They scored off a cheeky tap in, which they should not be getting the ball, getting a loose ball there inside the penalty area, and they
Yeah.
scored off a penalty, right? It was not. It was far from brilliance. So that's the part that hurts because, again, like I mentioned, right, Real Madrid fans were never going to overanalyze this game. This game was, at the end of the day, a last salvation to basically save Xabi Alonso's job, and maybe some of the deep rooted trust that the higher ups at the club um,
Yeah.
and the fans have in him. And
Hmm.
seemingly the players still are riding that Xabi Alonso hype even despite the loss, because if you couldn't, I think Rodrigo has gone on and said after that game that the hug to Xabi Alonso was a sign of him actually backing the manager, despite him being one of the players who's been most hard done by Xabi
Hmm.
Alonso. So for Rodrigo to come out and say um, that he's backing the manager is a big statement for me. And also Raul Asensio, he spoke out, said that this is on us, and he also said that something that very truly resonates with a lot of this Real Madrid dressing room. He also said that some of the attitudes in these, among the players needs to change. So I think that is very true. And you mentioned that the body languages of the players,
Hmm.
but you also
Yeah.
noticed that these players were fighting for Xabi today. Like, it wasn't enough in the end, sure, but these players were, like, for once it seemed like they were fighting for Xabi. And why it wasn't enough was because those who seemed likeliest to actually make an impact on today's game was everybody who has not been playing since the beginning of the season, like except Courtois, right?
Hmm.
Take Rodrigo or Endrick, towards the end. Um, like, everybody who's been playing consistently was just nowhere to be seen, or missed big chances. Vinny, Jude, like, I know Jude gave that assist, but the chances that he missed, Sunil, Rodrigo lays it on a platter for you inside the box,
Yeah. I have no idea why
right?
he chipped that. You know.
Yeah. So it's it's baffling to me that some of the best performances tonight have come from players who have been deprived of consistent game time. But it also makes sense. At the end of the day, these players are desperate to leave their mark on the game, and if you know if you completely disregard them on several occasions, like giving Endrick three or 4 minutes at the end of every game is not enough. I don't even think he gets that much now. Like,
Mhm.
as he did under Ancelotti, giving Rodrigo the odd run out, it doesn't make sense. Like, and Rodrigo goes out and
And
puts.
also the incentive is let's not kid ourselves. You know, like I got
Mm,
I wasn't the one to be actually fooled by all that. But not many people, people in the chat, people in our group chat, some of my mates, they were actually really convinced by the performance against Bilbao, and I was very very keen to point out Bilbao are at home. I think I've said this before, but I think this game is a perfect mirror of that as well, because um, when Bilbao is at home, they're actually playing expensive football. They're not sitting back. They want to put up a show. In front of their own fans. They're never going to play less courageous stuff. They're going to be marauding forward. They're going to be leaving space in behind. And we actually found some joy in it. City as well. I mean, when they were 2-1 up, right?
Yeah.
La Liga sides would pack the box. What did they do? Yeah, they defended a bit deep for maybe 10 minutes, but after that,
They were still
it
quite
was them.
open, man. They were
Yeah,
still
it
quite
was
open, and
it
they were
was them
making
gambling.
mistakes. They were making mistakes because they have a young centre back. Remember, O'Reilly, um, and Guardiola is actually quite sorted in his defense, but the rest of the defense is, it's not nearly as finished of a project as some of the other top sides we even face in La
No,
Liga.
what I was
So
saying was, the reason why we look okay against City is because they give us the space to
no,
exploit.
I get that. I get that. That's what
They
I'm
play in
I'm re
transition. That's
yeah I'm
where we actually, produce.
and I'm reiterating that the same
Mm,
point. City
mhm.
take risks, and then City
Yeah.
pay the price for the risks that they take. Um, and as a result, like, it becomes 1,000 times more likely that you win these games, even at least scores twice or thrice, and then it matters on
Mm.
how. It also depends on how you do in your own box, which again, the less spoken about, the better. I also expected the same of the game against Liverpool, where we played against a Liverpool side that was under incredible amounts of pressure at the time, as we are right now. Um, but neither of those games, ended up in victory, which is disappointing.
It is disappointing because we know headed into that game, we should be killing these men, right?
Exactly,
But when we
exactly.
see what happens on the pitch, we shouldn't be surprised. I'm telling you, we shouldn't be surprised because um, this is the stat we are up against, man. Madrid had only one shot on target against City tonight, their lowest tally in a Champions League game since 2003, 2004. This is at the Bernabeu, by the way,
Yeah.
um, which sums it up perfectly. When I tell people, this is the worst side in the past 20 years, they give me the look. They're like, you're ungrateful, right? You haven't been through the mud, right? Well, I have to basically, put it up against what I saw in my lifetime, and this is far and above and beyond
And
the poorest,
people have to take into consideration,
displays.
Sinead, that we're
Mm,
not saying that this is the worst Real Madrid side on paper. It's when you watch them play, the lack of
mm,
chemistry, the attitude,
mm.
right? The sheer lack of belief and fight that Real Madrid players of the past have put up. Like, even the most unimpressive players, right? Like, you pick up an Alvaro Morata. He was, at the end of the day, he was known as a rat, but even he fought for the badge when he played for us, right? So it almost feels dishonoring to the badge when you see such. Well, I wouldn't call tonight's performance like entirely lifeless. They gave it. Like, I wouldn't do that to them.
They fought. Then again, I'll tell
Yeah,
you,
yeah.
when the
But there
lights
have
are
been
the
other
brightest,
performances, yeah,
mm,
which there's
very few,
no words for
very
them.
few, very
Yeah,
few.
no, that's what I'm saying. There are other performances which I would call lifeless. This one wasn't one of them. We were just ineffective, and like, Vinicius was just outright bad when he was you know expected to take the mantle as the team's creative spearhead, and also be on the end of some of our best chances, which I don't think he did either of those jobs really well. Um, yeah, the pressure just gets to them, Sinead. Like, I don't know how much of this blame I can put on Xabi. Like, the
Yeah.
players know it, and they can see it in themselves that they aren't producing enough to save Xabi's job. And if anything, the
Hmm.
blame goes with the players, and some of their attitude, some of their lack of performances, because this is a very talented squad, and Xabi's making mistakes, like you said, right? He's making elementary mistakes, which should be expected of any young manager, but also at Real Madrid, you don't get to make so many of those mistakes, right? Like it's he has a lack of patterns, and he is also very non-committal to what he truly believes in. Like we started the season pressing really high, and we were fully on that boat that we have to play a certain way. And then as the season progressed, as the results sort of faded out, I don't know why we stopped committing to that idea.
Mm.
So I have a problem with Xabi in those terms, but to say that this crisis is completely down to him and his lack of man
But I'm
management or
telling you,
whatever
a more charismatic figure,
is,
a person who was a little more experienced. That's why even before he came, I was certain. I was so certain. This is why I've reiterated so many things that I've said in the past 3 4 months again and again. I've seen a lot in life to know when someone can actually be commanding, when someone would be respected. This is within the four walls of our dressing room, right? Xabi Alonso moves on from Madrid. He's going to have an illustrious career, mark my words, right? Like wherever he goes, he's going to be given free reign and given the trust and full support, top to bottom, at any club, because the stuff he has done over the last 3 4 years is pretty incredible for an up and coming manager. But I knew the moment he steps into our dressing room, he's a legendary player, right? But is he legendary enough for us? He has only played 4 years for us. Um, is he that big of a player in terms of the persona that Zidane was, right? I know we pit anyone against Zidane, but this is unfortunately the modern standard, right? Um, when you're up against the names of Zidane, Xabi looks incredibly small, and so many of these players, have they actually, been admiring Xabi Alonso when he was playing? I don't think so. He was an incredible player in his own right, but he isn't quite the personality, or he doesn't quite have the aura is a meaningless word most of the time. But times like this, you just wonder. Xabi Alonso isn't going to walk into a dressing room and immediately command attention. Um, no disrespect to him, he was one of my favorite players, but this is the reality. And so many of those guys, they won more for this club than Xabi Alonso has. That's the unfortunate truth again. You know, he's barking orders at us, and we have more with Madrid than you have. You know, that's just the way it goes. You measure up against who you're getting orders from. That's just the way it is in competitive environments. Unfortunately, um, but if
yeah,
he if we actually fire Xavi, there's no way out. Again, who are we gonna get,
yeah.
Sire?
And regardless of who we get, Sunit, even if we do get Zinedine Zidane on a say temporary basis till the World Cup, are you really going to put Zidane under the bus, or are you then going to go and blame the players? Because
Mm,
the time is going to
yeah.
come when even Zidane's Real Madrid will underperform with these players and with the same
Mm,
mentality. I don't know if that changes. Um, so it's not a manager issue, not entirely. Um, and also, like, if Xabi Alonso's only issue was a lack of results, I think he would be treated a lot less harshly than he is right now.
mm, mm,
Um, if he had just lost 4 games all season, which he has now, and he had no other problems. If Winnie's contract renewal wasn't an issue, right? If Rodrigo's situation wasn't the way it is, if
yeah.
Mbappe wasn't the only player scoring goals, right? If our youngsters weren't constantly underperforming, and our defenders weren't constantly getting injured, if all those problems were dissociated with Xabi's tenure so far at Real Madrid, you wouldn't even be calling for his head. But
Mm,
purely because everything around him has um, sort of collapsed all at once, right? And
yeah.
also about the dressing room, like it's is it really surprising that Xabi Alonso uh, isn't able to hold command or grasp the attention of or the respect, um, in its entire sense of all these
Immediately,
players,
I knew this
right?
wasn't a good match.
Right. It isn't.
I knew it. I knew
But
it
also
from
he
day
had
one.
his time,
Mm,
Sunil. He had his first 6 months to settle into that role and
mm,
to win that respect. Like with someone like Ancelotti and someone like Mourinho, that respect is given to you as soon as you walk in day one. He had
yeah.
6 months to win that respect. Um, and unfortunately, that he didn't have it easy, right? Xavi,
Mm,
like the contrast between his style and between the previous manager's style is stark. So if the players are, asked to do things on a completely different basis, right? Not in a tactical sense. I'm saying in a sense that how he translates his ideas to the players. Like Ancelotti, I'm sure was more calm and laid back. Um, Xabi has his ways, right? Xabi is very. I'm sure he bases his commands out of statistics on data
mm,
research, all of
yeah.
that stuff. So I don't know if the players back that idea enough that this is what is going to work for us or this is what is
Mm,
better for us as a team. And even if they come out and say that they back the manager in this moment, um, it's very easy to see in their body language when
mm,
they're out on the pitch
mm.
how much they believe in the manager's ideas.
Yeah. I mean, tonight, I mean, obviously, nobody's going to come out and say we are against the manager or we want him sacked. Or, like what I see today in a macro view is effort, right? Is willingness to fight. Especially the way we started, we started like we meant business, and we almost won a penalty with Vinicius and stuff like that. See, I'm telling you again, right? This game didn't need motivation, right? This game didn't need um, any sort of a push from anyone for these players to be up for it. What I see against the mid table sides in La Liga, the crucial away games that we have to navigate. In Carlos' tenure, I remember at one point we barely lost a game away, apart from Atleti. It was a run that really, really, made me believe that um, we could basically go to any stadium in the world and just quieten the crowd. It was an ability that I really, now when I look back, I don't think I appreciated it enough. Um, and when you actually compare Xabi Alonso with the task that he's up against, basically massage egos and manage political pressure from the board to play certain individuals and whatnot. It's never going to work, right? It's never going to work. Especially when you go away and you require this certain level of effort, especially if you're in a tactical system. It's just not going to happen. That's why I have an issue with people like I'm not blaming Farouk, right? But Farouk is our rep here, who represents the side of the divide that actually needs a modern approach to football and a modern approach to how we play big games and how we look on Champions League nights and how people talk about us. It shouldn't be Friendship FC. There is a valid point uh, Farouk makes, but then again, I know my Madrid, right, and he knows his Madrid as well. So when you ask for a tactical coach, when you ask for a coach that is so keen on finer details, right, the recruitment should back that. The recruitment should be well thought out. It shouldn't rely on free transfers. It shouldn't rely on who is the best available on the cheap. It should be a transfer policy that aligns with what the manager wants to do. And at a club like ours, it's nah, man. We don't have unlimited funds, right? We aren't backed by a state. And yes, the pull is incredible, but if we actually want to negotiate in the transfer market, we need a bucket load of cash. And when you don't have that, and you still want to be competitive, you have to sacrifice building a framework. Even if you want to in this period, I know we weren't about that life, but even if moving forward we want to be about that, we just wouldn't be able to. So any manager who comes in has to give in to what the power play is inside the club. Xabi Alonso, being young, being naive, thought that the people he shared the dressing room with, the likes of Cristiano, the likes of Pepe, the likes of Varane, all these guys. Varane was way too young, but the dressing room leaders, Higuain, um, these people had a certain level of responsibility, and they held each other accountable. And that's what led to so many of our great sides almost looking like they could manage themselves, right? Apart from a few blips here and there, but this side is inexperienced, is naive, is way too young. It's a completely different proposition. Unfortunately, if he had actually known what the what the play is at hand, he would have navigated this better, and probably would be looking at keeping his job. Sahil, are you going to actually believe these reports coming in that the hierarchy isn't really bothered by the loss? They're fully behind the manager. They're going to wait till Alaves and blah blah blah. For
No, no,
me,
no. Look,
bro, I've
Junaid, if tonight
yeah,
was if tonight was a 4-0, Xabi was gone.
mm, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Um, and the only reason we're keeping him
No,
not
I still
the
think he's a dead man walking, Sahil.
yeah, he
Unfortunately.
might as well be, because again, Alaves, with our current form, even Alaves is not, a guaranteed victory. We thought the players would come out and give us a statement performance and actually
Mm,
um, put a couple goals past City, but we couldn't even do that. So Alaves is, again, I wouldn't bet on it. Um, but like you said, right? It's also, so there's so much of it on the players, and as the players really really know deep down, and they have agreed, they have admitted it after this defeat. I know for sure Thibaut, Jude, uh, Raul Asensio, and another player, Rodrigo, have all come out and say that it's the responsibility is on us and we back Xabi. So again, for the players to come out and say that, I don't think the club is gonna sack the manager on the back of that. um, it might just be enough to keep him in the job for another game or two. But if the
mm.
results don't show beyond that, like, I don't care how we get the results. I don't care if it's a sloppy 1-0 victory at this point, because there were times even in Carlo Ancelotti's tenure, across both of his tenures, where
I did
his
warn a
job.
lot of the really really amateurish takes over here. I did warn this. I did
Yeah,
warn it way too long ago that wins shouldn't be taken for granted. Now
yeah,
you can't win to save your fucking life. Science.
yeah.
2 wins in 8. I haven't really lived long enough to see uh, a patch like this. To be honest, have you seen something like this, Sile?
Not even in my 10 years, almost 10 years of watching Real Madrid play now.
Mm,
Um, you know what the biggest problem is? Like, I've always had this problem with being a Real Madrid fan, right? And in our successful years, I could never really say it, or get enough people to agree with me on it. And the fact that we are
mhm,
just so reactionary as a team, um, and it worked in our favor in the past, where we actually had the ability to put those odds in our favor, where if we're a goal down, or if we've lost a few games on a streak, we would then
mhm,
come back and win four, right? Or we would put two goals in the back of the opposition's net. Um, but that reactionary mentality, unfortunately, has stayed with this current set of players, and it's showing game
mhm.
after game, where we wait for
Yeah.
the opposition to put us under pressure, or we wait for us to
Mhm.
get a red card, and then, like,
Yeah.
for the bro, fuck everything, for Xabi Alonso to come out after the Celta Vigo game and say that we started playing properly after the red card
Yeah.
is such a fucked up thing to say,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
But it's normalized in this world, where we glorify the idea of comebacks and remontadas, because we had one game 3 years ago, like, or one
Mhm.
run of games 3 years ago, where we constantly came back from behind, right?
Yeah.
um and now we're living in this fantasy that it's going to happen. We were living in even me, I was believing in those last few minutes against City. The commentators were saying it just because it happened all those years ago. It could happen, but reactionary mentality is only going to get you so far, bro. Like taking the initiative, taking the games to opposition, people are going to crack down on that eventually.
Mm.
Taking the game to the opposition is so important in this modern day and age. And if Shabir believes even the slightest in his approach or his idea of what modern football means, then I think he has to see that this reactionary mindset has to go.
Well, I'm for one a pretty romantic person in terms of remontadas and how we just fight back, fire with fire, and yeah, just live to see another day. It's not pretty to sit through it, but I'll be honest. The the city tie, when we actually had to come back, that was one of the most satisfying moments. I could say, being a Madridista, but compare it to the way we actually went through at Etihad. In the penalty shootout, I absolutely hated every single second of my life watching that. Um, so yeah, I completely understand your point, and
Just to reply to Ashik in the comments, Sunaim, the fact that our players are relying on that game after
mm,
game to
yeah,
have to come back from a deficit is not healthy.
they're basically
I
trying
Yeah,
to
yeah, that's not done.
conjure
I
the
know,
intangible,
yes, I
right?
know that remontadas have been made in the past, but even then it used to be a 4 or 5 times a season, like thing.
Yeah,
Like not
yeah.
not every other game where we had to come from behind, and
Mm-hmm.
maybe a run of games, yes, in 2017. I remember that. But for our players to rely, and nothing comes like uh you can see it again. It all goes back to body language, where you can see it. They're almost waiting to concede or waiting for a chance to go on the opposition, and
Mm-hmm.
then you respond with a counter attack.
Yeah.
By then the opposition's already seen it coming because they have played it in their head 1,000 times. Real Madrid is going
Because
to
let me add
fire.
something to
Yeah.
that side. I mean, you make a very valid point. I mean, on the surface it looks like that, but let me just add a bit more substance to it. So, yes, it looks like we wait for something to happen and be reactionary and chase the game right after someone scores on us. I do think it's down to how we are set up tactically because let's be honest. Ever since even when Mourinho was here, yes, we were solid. We had to really be solid to actually give the forward players the platform to go out and do their business. But in my lifetime watching Madrid, we are side, regardless of the coach, regardless of what phase we are in the season, regardless of personnel, we rely on transitions. And these guys, like the people that came before them, rely on transitions to actually leave their mark. And sadly for us, and even for them, they just aren't at the level of the players that we used to have. Um, I'm not undermining Mourinho's, incredible tactical nows. At times playing Ramos in midfield, Pepe in midfield, Carlo converting Di Maria into a midfielder, Zidane's, Isco, revolution at Cam, dropping Bale completely. All this is a tactical um, rework in terms of how we are set up from the start. But once the game is in the third gear, our players excel when the game is stressed, and it's just the way it is. Whereas teams like this City side and Pep's usual great sides, they tend to just suck the life out of their opposition. Even the Barcelona right now, they look so incredible, and I don't think they look so successful, and they look so pleasing to watch, even when they are frustrating um, their own fans with their high line. they have adopted what we used to do, what our great sides used to do in the good part of the 2010s decade. They look to actually make the game stressed. That's why Barcelona is being successful. Um, but we have, a really, really weird amalgamation of a whole plethora of problems: injuries, players out of form, not having the necessary profile to actually, even make use of transitions. Yes, Jude Bellingham can carry the ball. If you remember tonight, his brilliant run, man, like beating 5 men, I think, in the process. And he laid it off to was Ibrahim, and he plays it back to Endrick. I can't remember, but you see stuff like this is incredible. But who is there to actually pick the lock, right? Who is there to actually, provide a ball that the defense isn't really prepared for? There's absolutely no one. Even in Isco, if we had an Isco who is well beyond his prime, who can barely jog, he would do wonders in this team. But yeah, that's that's for another night. Let me go through a few comments quickly. Ashik was mentioning Mbappe's fault again. Vinny can't play because of Mbappe. I'm telling you, Ashik, it's not Mbappe's fault. No hit against Mbappe. But I'll answer me this, right? For me, this was the first half, especially. This was, for me, how a well balanced attack front line should look like. With Mbappe, it's fluid, yes, but it doesn't look the way it did in the first half. That was my personal opinion. Do you have something to say, Sahil?
I get that, but even when the attack looks complete, who ends up being the weak link? It was Vinny.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. I have no arguments against it, but I'm telling you, Vinny paired up with a top striker, a striker who knows what to do in the box.
Yeah,
You know, fix up his positioning.
yeah.
When he can really, really, wreak havoc. But I don't think people are ready to have that conversation anymore. I'm not defending Vinny's form. We all know he is way, way beyond poor. Okay, he's well below par. He has looked a shadow of himself. His body language, the way he looks exasperated every time he misses a shot. It speaks for itself. But Sahil, didn't our front line look like it had something to it compared to Mbappe trying to take on 4 man, Vinicius was trying to take on 4 man? Parts of it has to do definitely with how Rodrigo was like a man possessed tonight. In my opinion, the best player on the pitch. But I don't want to give him too much airtime scoring the first goal in 30, 40 games. A good goal, decent, but whatever. Um,
It
but
feels
yeah,
like a
for
reporter
mm,
trying to get a headline out of me, but
mm.
would I rather have Mbappe on the pitch than Vinny? Absolutely, I would right now. Just purely with the way he played, I would play Mbappe,
Out on the wing, yeah, I wouldn't
yeah. I
disagree
would
with it.
bench Vinny
Mm,
on 100%. I have no idea why he played the entire 90 minutes. And
mhm.
um, I know Mbappe was seemingly injured and he wasn't fit
Yeah.
enough to play, um, but if you're asking me if a fully fit Mbappe plays over, this Vinny,
Mm.
there's absolutely no doubt about it. And I don't know why Xabi Alonso hasn't taken those decisions, sooner to bring
This
Bellingham
is one of the
into the
reasons.
into the
Mm,
mix, bring
mm,
Rodrigo into the mix, right? Pair them with
yeah.
Arda.
Yeah.
Give someone like Arda and someone like Trent, who's now injured, a
Hmm.
focal point to aim at. Well,
Mm,
you do all of this at the very last moment when you're inches away from losing the job.
yeah.
And that's what you get, and that's exactly my point. My problem
Mm,
with Xabi, he isn't immune to any of this blame. But yeah,
mm. Another man. I don't think I would have ever thought I should back. Ceballos played out of his fucking skin. I mean, see, this is okay. Again, okay. This has to also do with the occasion, right? The night we're playing City at home. But if there was actual meritocracy, even with Carlo, but Carlo is a magician, right? Like I would give him the leeway because despite his favorites, he just makes shit happen. That's who he was, right? Apart from last year, obviously. But um, this is why I think Xabi Alonso has lost a lot of faith from the fan base, especially because when you look at the performances and when you look at some of the untouchables among the squad, you wonder. You're a decorated player, not just with us, but you won a World Cup, you have won league titles with Bayern. You've been a leader in so many different environments. At Liverpool, involved in the famous Istanbul comeback. So you would expect Xabi Alonso to actually be like, you know what? If you want to sack me, right? But I'm gonna go around fighting like what Mourinho did. If the board doesn't agree with me, if the board feels like I'm not fit for the job, at least I can prove to the people the actual problems behind it. But all these top coaches or upcoming coaches or whoever it is, right? They just shake hands at the end of the day and come to a conclusion that there is way too much money involved, not just for us, but for the club and for you know there's way too much money involved, way too much money at stake. Let's just make sacrifices. That's what has happened. That's what has completely derailed Xabi Alonso's career, in my opinion, at Madrid. In Madrid, if he actually kept it at a T and dropped Vinicius and gave Endrick a proper shout, gave Gonzalo the minutes he deserved. Not. Yeah, it would it would look like a completely different season. It wouldn't have decapitated the way it has gone, to be honest, because now we look like we don't know what to do, or not just on the pitch, even with lineups.
Yeah.
Fragan Mastantona was the only Xabi Alonso mark that I could say he swore by, in terms of his lineup selection. Apart from that, nah, he just wasn't strong enough. Wasn't strong enough. Um, yeah, Ashik Singh, he's doing everything he can to get Alonso sacked. Fede is helping. Fede, piss poor. My goodness. Yeah. To be honest, I never thought I would say something like this about Fede. To be honest, the
He's
worst
healing
I've
through
seen.
injury, right?
Yeah, I do think so, because there's no explanation to the amount of poor decisions he makes on a weekly basis. Sahil, this is beyond me. He looks like a League Two player, a Segunda player, um, non-league player at times. At times, there's flashes. If you remember the diagonal he played to Vinny towards the end of the game, holy shit! Almost cruise-like, inch perfect precision. The whip on the ball. You just know there's our Fede in him. But yeah,
Hmm.
he just looks like he can't keep up with the pace
And
he's asked to
also,
play at. Mm,
yeah, purely because of the fact that we have lost both of our right back options,
mm,
uh, and also we don't really field anyone else as a starting right winger in some of these games, right? When Arda is and he comes in, intends to come
yeah,
to the midfield. I'm not talking today's game, but a lot of the times Valverde is left on his own to handle the right wing the entire rotation, which is not fair. Um, Also, like that takes a toll eventually on his performances. Like he will give you a 6 or 7 out of 10. He will keep, somehow barely scratching and clawing back into the game with a yellow card. Maybe he will manage to contain uh, Jeremy Doku, but not gonna like he's gonna run out of steam eventually, and that is
yeah,
happening now, I feel.
yeah, yeah. Fede Valverde. I mean, also his like you should. I don't know. I don't know how to put it, man. Um, People like players being honest. People like players, actually not sounding robotic and whatnot. If you have issues, right? If you want to say something to the manager, you should speak in private. This is a point. This is a point where I couldn't actually believe that Pede actually came out and said that he wasn't born to play right back. Never. Should never do that. I've seen a lot of top professionals, absolutely being, put through the through the
Well,
grinder.
Lucas Vasquez,
Lucas Vasquez, Arbeloa,
yeah,
played on either flank without, I mean, Arbeloa didn't nearly have, or Lucas Vasquez didn't nearly have the status Fede has, but this again goes to show the player power that's, plaguing our dressing room, man. And I'm telling you, would someone do that under Mourinho? They absolutely would not. I'm telling you for a fact. Under Zidane, if Fede does that, it's over for Fede, man. I'm sorry, that's just the way it should be. When he came out and said that, he should have been immediately dropped from the lineup. He should have been like, you know what? If you're not born to play a right back, you should maybe warm the bench for us. That's the way we should have dealt with the Vinicius substitution. If he is showing that much displeasure in being taken off, right? And it's a public lash out, right? You should if you think the manager is in the wrong, speak to him behind the scenes. You went to him.
exactly.
You throw bottles at him. Nobody is going to know, right? Um,
Mm.
but if you actually do that in front of everyone, you're basically undermining the manager, undermining the hierarchy, undermining
Mm.
a man in power who should rightfully be exercising the power the club has given to him. But yeah, man.
No, yeah, I agree with that. And also like more just on the whole Mo Salah with Liverpool situation also like it's similar thing. Um, I just hope and pray that Xabi Alonso double down on what worked for him tonight and takes the right lessons from what was partly, you know, okayish performance, an improved performance, I would say.
Mhm.
Uh, because again, the selection for tonight, playing Gonzalo Garcia, playing Rodrigo, he forced his hand. It wasn't like a coach's choice where he opted to play one over the other. Right?
Yeah,
Even sending Enrico, it was his last resort. I
desperation,
hope
desperation.
I hope that he sees that that was what worked, and all these players that he has been, avoiding for so long, and even include Ceballos in this, have shown the spark that is so
Mm.
severely missing in some of these games. So in this game, like I mentioned earlier with Mourinho, like he dies on that hill, right? I hope even if Shabi has to lose his job, he dies on that hill where
Mhm.
eventually
He
he
he he
commits
he
to,
won.
yeah.
So he
Eventually,
won.
I that's what I hope for him. I hope he commits to the idea of um
Hmm.
what his idea of a Red team has to look like, because I also agree with what Ashik said in the comments. Alonso
Hmm.
eventually has resorted to appeasing some of the players in this like
Yeah.
and that is not what managing egos in dressing room means at all, right? It doesn't appease you know some of their persona. Um, yeah, like I said, Shabi is non-committal about his idea of Real Madrid now, and I just hope that changes.
Yeah, Xabi Alonso actually, if he actually went out and saw this through, sticking to his guns, it would have been completely different. The fact that he can't really handle the pressure, handle the dressing room, or yeah, just come across as a man who is not even under pressure, just yeah, adds to all the uneasiness, in the crowd, because the manager should be the reflection of the team. And whenever you look at Xabi Alonso, he is a lost man. I can't lie. He's a lost man. He just looks absolutely livid all the time. He looks like yeah. It almost looks like he's on the player's feet to actually do something. Provide a spark. It's yeah. It's unfortunate. Moon was mentioning Mini needs to go. He won Xavi out and not scoring a single goal in the last 12 games and asking 30 million. Play Mbappe at left wing with a proper striker. See, that's my thing. All these guys can coexist. Trust me. Vinicius can coexist. Mbappe can coexist. Rodrigo can coexist. Rodrigo, as we all know, is willing to take, a secondary role. He knows that he might not be quite at their peak. He might not be quite at the level of Mbappe or Rodrigo, or Vinicius, but he can still be crucial when called upon. He knows that, and he has a special affection towards us, and the club, and we gave him the career that he right now has, right? So he is a Madridista through and through, right, Rodrigo. Um, if we actually go out and sign a proper striker, a la, Gurasi. I don't know. I'm just, brainstorming here. Someone who is decent enough. He needn't be Haaland. Haaland is a dream signing. I wish it happens. If it happens, we are going to absolutely cook everyone, right? Regardless of what fucking issues we have in midfield, in defense. If we have Haaland, Mbappe, Vinicius, Rodrigo as our front four, with Gonzalo added into the mix, we can do wonders, right? But that's what I'm saying. If we actually get a striker who knows how to play the position, play Mbappe and Vinicius either side, one of them obviously have to give in and play right wing. We can actually have a fluid front three. If we saw the first half against City, Gonzalo was sometimes on the right, sometimes on the left. Vinicius was playing striker when he, was drifting in. Rodrigo popped up on the right, popped up on the left, popped up, in its center forward spot. So it can look dynamic. It can actually be free flowing. These guys, I'm telling you, these guys have to really, really suck it up and play to win football matches. Not just be like, yeah, like I should play from this part of the pitch, for me to excel. It's not going to fly, if the results continue to, you know, stink and we, lose our. Let's be honest. People don't really fear us anymore. No one really even bats an eye when we lose games. That's the most concerning aspect for me. When I talk to my mates, they're not even surprised because they all tell me you were doomed to fail the moment you had, the power play between Mbappe, Vinicius, and the board. It was pretty obvious for most people. Ever since Carlos last year, started to fade away at the halfway mark. People just know, man. And the funny bit is, if rival fans knows this, are
Rival teams wouldn't
yeah,
even,
yeah.
yeah.
So the only way we survive this is, see, Chabi can be kept in the job. I would still back Chabi if there is a clear indication that Gonzalo starts every game, unless he has a poor run of form and whatnot. Gonzalo starts every game just to give us some sort of a semblance of an organization up top, someone who knows
And
the
Rodrigo too, I
position.
would say.
Just off this game, I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm his
no,
biggest
purely of this
fanboy, but
game,
mm, mhm.
next game, because he is your best chance right now. At if Mbappe isn't fit,
Right wing, yeah.
Rodrigo is your best chance. He's looking like sharpest. I don't think Masantona has played in a long time.
Hmm.
Game is just his form is concerning as well, and he needs starting a Real Madrid game. I feel so. Rodrigo is these guys are going to these guys are going to produce. I feel if of games certainly their flaws each of them. Rodrigo has just what 32 game, you know, goalless. Enrique and Gonzalo have both shown to be, but so has Vinicius, right? Um, this
You,
game, I think I
you're
would
breaking up a bit for me, Sahil.
might be my internet, but yeah, I'm just saying these guys need to start with or without Penny. This comes into the mix. I think Xabi is going to commit to that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, Vinicius is a phenomenal player. I know so many people want him out, but even after tonight, even after such a a shy display from him overall, um, I still do think he has a lot to prove, a lot to give, because put him in a proper system. When I say system, put him pair him up with profiles that can actually play to his strengths. When he whips on the ball, there's someone to head the ball in. When he actually looks to cut back, he has a striker he can play 1-2 with. People who's going to occupy CBs so that Vinicius can actually, do what he does best, damage inside, the opposition pen box. Yeah, man. It's like I've said this in the group chat as well. It's a structural breakdown when we don't have the required profiles. To actually win games. Defense wins you titles, but we can only think about titles if we actually start winning games. And where do you win games? It's in the final third. Um, but yeah, let me get into a few other comments before we slowly start to wrap this up. Um, yeah, Ashik was mentioning the players forgot that at Madrid, even Cristiano wasn't bigger than the club. The club is the only star. The players are not. Unfortunately, the players are the stars, man. They have a certain sense of protection. I'm telling you, Perez and the board, they absolutely back the players way too much, in my opinion. Because how else can you explain Vinicius you know, going on this run of this kind of run, and basically, yeah, just be one of the first names on the team sheet week in week out. You know, you name Fede as well. If he's injured, I know if he's injured, he should be rested and given a spot on the bench, and then we should actually look at the academy and do something. This is the thing, man. If we actually had a competent board, so many little things like this would actually be different, and then we would collectively look like a much more refined, uh, a final product. At this point in time, it looks like certain players, they can't be touched. Vinicius for one, Mbappe for one. Rodrigo not so much, maybe. Fede for one. Um, who else? Jude Bellingham. Yeah, definitely. People are fed up with Jude Bellingham, man. I don't want to pile too much on him. He's still young, still learning. But the more I hear about Jude Bellingham and his dad's involvement and whatnot, like I'm not here to say that I'm going to believe every single rumor. But when I think about it on a deeper level, and basically, yeah, try to understand what might be fiction, what might be a bit closer to the reality than others wouldn't want to believe. Yeah, when you sum it up, it doesn't look great for Jude as well. um yes, so many key players, just they don't look like they're playing for the manager. They don't look like they want to put in the amount of effort required to actually win games on a consistent basis. Um, Moon was mentioning Mini and Mbappe can't work together. Whatever manager we will bring, it'll be a failure. You are so wrong. I may be wrong, but I know when I've seen players actually, you know, where they have actually been written off, they spring to life when you least expect it. I know it might be a shot in the dark, but when you look at Vinicius and Mbappe, they are perfectly set up for a prime striker. A striker who knows where the goal is, a striker who knows what to do in the final third. Vinicius and Mbappe can actually cook, man. I'm telling you, it can happen. Vinny, Mbappe, Haaland, Rodrigo are front four. Then who will be defending? Rodrigo will be off the bench for sure. Front four in the sense that that's the main attack. Who will be defending? You're playing FIFA or what? What are you talking about? I'm disappointed in your football knowledge, says Moon. See, a front three of Vinny, Mbappe, Haaland, or Vinny, Mbappe, and a decent striker. I would even take the out of form Liam Delap at this rate. So it's a weird shot, but Joao Pedro, he can't shoot to save his life, but even someone as decent as him would be okay in this lineup. You know,
Just get Salah, man. Just get Salah.
Salah can't play striker though. That's the thing, right? Salah can't actually play striker.
I
But
I
when I hear
wish,
those kind of rumors,
yeah, if we could
you
swap
know,
him for like Rodrigo, the club would do that, right? The club would take it.
you would actually give Rodrigo for that con man,
No, I'm not saying I
Sahil?
would. I'm not saying I would. I'm saying the club would right now with the position
Okay,
Rodrigo is in.
okay,
Maybe
okay, okay.
for Salah plus a fee, like
Oh
who
yeah,
knows, bro?
I,
It's not
I don't.
happening, but yeah.
I just hope those things just stay as fanfic. But yeah,
Mm.
Moon, I wasn't implying we're gonna play a 4-2-4. Um, but a front three of Vinny, Mbappe, and a good striker is absolutely going to be lethal. Bring on Rodrigo from the bench. Bring on Gonzalo. Bring on Endrick if he's back after his loan spell at Lyon or Marseille or wherever the fuck he's gonna go. We're going to actually have depth in attack. Why wouldn't you want depth in attack? Because you want all these men to be actually on their toes. Not be assured that they're going to be starting week in week out. Um, but yeah, any final thoughts, Si?
I'm actually lost for words, and I don't think I can add anything to the situation that would actually rationalize this for any Real Madrid fan. Um, because it's so chaotic right now. Everybody's blaming a different player, a different or Shabby or the board or tactics or man management or and
Yeah.
it's such a mess of ideas that I can't summarize or put it into one thing. I just hope the Alaves game sort of makes us forget, and I hope that we claw our way back into the title race because La Liga it has to be our main focus from now on because from what we've seen so far, Champions League, uh, the bigger fish are to get us. Arsenal in this kind of form, PSG, if even by mistake we come across one of these sides, right, we are done for.
Mhm.
That's what I think. Um, Even if the second leg is at the Bernabeu, right?
Yeah.
Even if we win the first leg 2-0, what I don't care. Uh,
Hmm.
there are a lot of teams. There's an overwhelming amount of teams that are capable right now of beating Real Madrid, and that is the harsh reality. So we have to rely on obviously Barcelona stuttering later in the season.
Hmm.
Um, but I fully believe that we have to commit to the La Liga, title for now, and win as many games on the bounce as possible on the other end of the break.
Yeah.
The less said about Xabi Alonso's situation, the better, because we've discussed this for what, an hour now. So
Alaves wouldn't be easy. They just bet Sociedad, at the weekend at home. Yeah. Even if we win, it should be like a 4-0 win, which Sahil, both you, me, people in the chat, people who are going to be tuning in later on, they all know a 4-0 isn't happening. It's just not happening. When was the last time we actually blew teams out of the water? I remember maybe against Valencia,
Valencia, yeah.
yeah, 3-0, decent, but we need a proper hammering to actually get over this run. But yeah, but whether Xabi Alonso is in the job or no come Sunday is a big question mark. We'll find out in the coming hours. If what we hear from the sources in Madrid is actually true. You know, um, but yeah, I've given up on this inside 3 months. Call me fickle, call me impatient. But for me, when I see signs like the one that I've seen over the you know last month, particularly, especially after the clasico, it's just not good enough for me. If he turns it around, I'll be the happiest man in the world. I'm always ready to actually eat the humble pie. I've done that, with so many players, which I didn't seem good enough. They're actually low key legends of this club already. So Xabi Alonso still can absolutely change it all around and basically lead this club towards a decent season. I don't think he can completely rectify the course because it's December. You know, um, although there is a significant third of the season left. Yeah, he should actually look towards Zizou and maybe ask him some advice for how he manages to conjure the juju, the black magic. We badly need it. We badly need decisions to go our way, injury crisis, to be a bit more favorable. Yeah, we need a lot of things to be falling in our favor to actually turn this around. But yeah, boys, big up people in the chat, big up people tuning in late on as well. Man City 2, Real Madrid 1. We were expecting a thrashing. This is decent, but yeah, the run of form really is a villain. Yeah, hopefully we can turn it around against Alaves. For me, Xabi has to go, but yeah, if he's in the job, I'm going to absolutely back him, and I hope we get a reaction finally from these players. But until next time, boys, a la Madrid.
Real Madrid boys. Okay, that was that.